Let me ask you about Cuba. Speaking of consequences, there are new provisions the president has put in place to put pressure on Cuba for its human rights record. But when the president... Go ahead.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. No, I wouldn't view it just as putting pressure. I really don't. I think this is an effort to strengthen individual Cubans. Understand what this does. This basically says that American travelers to Cuba, they'll continue to fly on commercial airlines or get there in a cruise, but when they get there, they have to spend their money primarily with individual Cubans who own private businesses, which is what everybody who supported the Obama opening was always bragging about. They were saying there was all these new small businesses. Right. Well, we want to put them in a privileged position. And so American travelers to Cuba will have to spend their money with them instead of the Cuban military. That was the goal of this, is to empower individual Cubans to be economically independent of the Castro military and of the Castro regime.
But when the president gave his speech, he said that we will not lift sanctions on the Cuban regime until all political prisoners are freed. He talked about freedom of assembly. He talked about all political parties being legalized. So I guess what I was interested in is that when he went to Saudi Arabia, he said he's not going to lecture Saudi Arabia about its considerable human rights challenges and what's happening in Yemen that Saudi Arabia is funding. And I wondered if you could square for us, on the one hand, a very public lecturing of the Cubans and no lecturing of countries like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, and how you see that.
Yeah. Well, a couple points. First of all, what you talked about, not lifting sanctions until they have elections, that's actually the law. That's the law of the United States. It's codified under Helms-Burton. It says that. The embargo goes away when they meet these conditions, and you've outlined them, and the president outlined them. As far as squaring the two, obviously the administration will have to do that, because I criticize Saudi Arabia as well. In fact, I take a back seat to no one on criticizing them or anybody in the world when it comes to human rights and the violations or lack of democracy. I will say this, however. This is in our region. This is 90 miles from our shores. The Western Hemisphere 35 years ago was largely controlled by dictators. Basically, every nation in this region has had a free and fair election at some point over the last 20 or 15 years, except for one, and that's the island of Cuba. So in our region, in our own backyard, we are not going to allow tyranny and dictatorship to grow and to surge. We want the people of Cuba to have the same opportunities the people in the Dominican Republic have had, the people in Haiti just had, the people of Colombia have, and that is to be able to vote for their leaders.